You are listening to the Heartland Author Podcast. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, I had the opportunity to interview Serra Wildheart. Serra is the author of the fiction book Return to Star Junction and a co-founder of the publishing collective Scribe Hive Publishing. I'm here with Serra Wildheart, who is the author of the novel Return to Star Junction and is the co-founder of a publishing cooperative called Scribe Hive Publishing. Serra, welcome to the Heartland Author Podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Okay, well, my name is Serra Wildheart, or that is my pen name. And I have just released my debut novel, Return to Star Junction, which will be the first of a 3-book series, I believe. And also co-founded Scribe Hive Publishing for my writing group, so that we could support each other in the process of publishing and marketing and having a website and not have to do it all ourselves.
Without spoiling too much of Return to Star Junction, what is that book about, and is there a name for the series that book is in?
There is a name for the series. It is the Legends of Star Junction series. And the book, the short version of what it's about, it's a returning to home and to self. Essentially, we have a successful CEO, Val, who lives in Southern California, who gets the urgent call for help from her estranged brother. And she finds herself on a journey back to the northern Arizona, southern Utah border-ish area, and her mystical hometown of Star Junction, with her with 2 nephews that she didn't really know, and on a quest to kind of heal the family and learn what she needs to do to return to herself.
Now, Star Junction is a fictional town, is that correct?
Yes, it is a fictional town.
Was it based on any real-life cities or towns in that part of Utah or Arizona where it's set?
It is more of a combination. In 2020, that famous year, I found myself on a little bit of a solo road trip towards the end of the year, and I was car camping, hiking, in places like Zion National Park and the North Rim of the Grand Canyon and the Grand Escalante staircase. And while I was on this journey, this story came to me. The characters and the some of that landscape there is just stunning and awe-inspiring. And all of a sudden, I had these characters talking in my head, and I decided I should probably write down the ideas and write what they were saying. And within a couple of months, I made the commitment to actually write whatever it was going to be. And it became this book and series. So the town is fictional, but it's inspired by those locations that are, breathtaking and often words can't describe.
You mentioned that Return to Star Junction is the first in a 3-part series called The Legends of Star Junction. Do you have working titles for the next 2 books in the series?
I only have very basic working titles. The second book is actually going to be a prequel. So it is going to pick up the story before this one, of who some of these mentors are that she returns to and learns from, and what that story is and a little bit more of the history of Star Junction. And then the third book will kind of pick up where we left off and take it forward. And it's more goes beyond bringing the family together. In this current novel, in Return to Star Junction, she's charged with bringing them home, right? Bringing them together, bring them home. So she once they have come, not to spoil it, but they with that part of it underway, then the next part is to build from there, reaching out beyond the community of Star Junction and bringing healing to more people. And I'm not describing that well, but that's it's still in the early stages. So
you co-founded Scribe Hive Publishing, which is not your typical publishing company, in that it's a publishing cooperative. How does a publishing cooperative differ from other types of publishing companies?
Well, essentially, in a couple of ways. The main way is that the company itself is not intended to be for profit. It is rather to help each of the authors be more profitable. So whereas a traditional publishing company, an artist would sign with them, they might get whatever, anywhere from a few thousand to many $1,000s for their payment, and then it would be a long time before they ever saw many royalties, because the publishing company has to pay for their stuff. But in this sense, we're very different, but we're also don't have the power or the money of a major publishing company. We don't have that marketing department or anything, so we're all doing everything grassroots, trying to get the word out ourselves and going local with our different shops and venues and libraries, and supporting each other in what would have otherwise been self-publishing. But rather than try to each do it individually, we have come together and are sharing our resources, including a website, the Facebook presence, doing newsletter. The newsletter is coming. We're still working. We're still very new. Still working on the newsletter. That should be out by the end of the year and become a monthly thing. We have a weekly blog that we share in, so nobody has to do it every week. We just alternate, and so it's really a down to earth, bootstrap kind of thing, and building from there, doing our best to get the word out and to grow a community, really.
Who are some of the others in the some of the other authors in the Scribe Hive Cooperative?
Well, we have E.L. Winters, or L. Winters. She has actually just published her first 2 novels, and they're each a part of a different series. So she has her work cut out for her. She had Myth Matched, an Autumn Grove tale, and then she has The Ghost Rider, a story of the Guild, and both are out now. We have Jill Jenkins, who is the author of The Goddess and the Bee. It's a YA novel, and adventure. And we have Alva Cronin, who is the author of The Bridge of Now, and also has an amazing online course that she's just launched. The Bridge of Now is actually going to be re-released in early 2024. We have B.R. Maurice. Her debut novel will be coming out also early next year. I believe the target at the moment is January, but we're making sure everything is set up right first. And then we also have Deandra Laprade, and she will be out probably I don't want to set the date for her, but I'm thinking maybe next fall. She's still working on her beautiful book. So that's our core group of 6 authors. We do have 2 more in our group, but they are our they provide moral support and guidance and are not currently publishing under Scribe Hive Publishing, but are just one of them is more like a mentor, and the other is somewhere in between mentor and one of us. So we'll see.
What genres of books does the Scribe Hive Cooperative publish?
Well, we have I would say my book is magical realism. It's under the fantasy heading, but I would call it low fantasy. The magic is mostly implied. Elle's books are definitely magical realism and even urban fantasy, including, witches and fae folk and nature elements and all of that. B.R. Maurice is epic fantasy. Jill Jenkins does YA. And I am not sure how to categorize Deandra's yet, but I would say that it's still in the perhaps magical realism or even the spiritual realm. And we will be doing a few actual nonfiction and kids books. There's some other books in the works that have that are more playful and dog related, as my while I was writing Return to Star Junction, I went on a 48 state road trip with my boyfriend and his 2 dogs, and we blogged about it and decided that there were a couple of books in there, so we'll be also producing or publishing those in the next year or so.
Having seen Scribe Hive Publishing's website, that is one of the best looking websites for any publishing entity of any kind that I've seen. Who designed the website?
Oh wow, well that's a huge compliment. Thank you. Actually, I designed the website for the most part. I got a little bit of help with I designed the graphics, and then I had a real artist make them usable, because that's not my strength. But and we're using the templates on the Wix platform, so they do make it somewhat easy. But yeah, there's been a lot of time in that one, so I appreciate the compliment.
My final question is, what was the most difficult part of setting up a publishing cooperative for you and your fellow authors?
I would say that some of it is honestly finding the time and getting all of the ducks in the row, so to speak. So I knew in the end of 2022 that's kind of where we wanted to go, and I was formulating how would this work, what would this look like, and then we all kind of agreed that's what we wanted to do. So I contacted the local, I found a local chapter of the SBA and or Small Business Association, and got free advice from them, because that's what they do. and how to set it up. So it's setting up an LLC, deciding kind of those other elements of what we need, what applied to us and what doesn't. And that side of things also is just knowing the business side and how that would go, any potential legalities or issues. So and then the next thing was deciding how the since we didn't want the company to be taking any of the royalties, how we would be publishing. And right now we're primarily publishing to Amazon. We do have some presence on ebooks and other places, but we do plan to have a direct sales portion of our website by hopefully March of next year, so people can buy direct from us, which means undertaking the fulfillment and all of that. And that's the next most challenging thing, is getting that squared away.
Sarah, you were an amazing guest for this podcast. I thank you for appearing on the Heartland Author podcast. I hope to be able to interview some of the other authors in your cooperative at a later date.
Fantastic. Yes, I will definitely let them all know. I'm sure they'd be thrilled. And thank you again for having me.
I hope to be able to interview other members of the Scribe Hive Publishing Collective on this podcast in the future. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to write your imagination. Bye for now. You can learn more about me and my book writing projects at campaaronapollo.wixsite.com/authoraac. You can follow me on Facebook at AuthorAAC and on Instagram at AAC Scribe. Copyright 2023, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.